Up to 2025, independent candidates rule of 2011, reserved seats for Women Election Act of 2004, Constituencies Act of 2021 amended or rather corrected up to 2025, and Election Officers Special Commission Act of 1991 amended in 2025. Besides, for the officials of the Election Commission conducting the election, there is a rule called Election Conduct Rule amended up to 2025. For the observers and media personnel, both from home and abroad, we have guidelines. And these guidelines are given in booklets. I have those in hand. I'm sure you are in possession of this. If you are not, I request you to collect one from our colleagues here. Okay. These guidelines are rather unchanged for people who have participated before. Only there have been few amendments related to covering different areas, related to staying inside the polling station. As a broad guideline, if I may tell you, observers and media personnel can enter any polling station as per the accreditation, can carry their camera or the cell phone, can take photographs, make videos, there's no problem. There's only one restriction. Inside the polling booth where the voters are casting their vote, you can film, but you cannot interview somebody and you cannot telecast live. Those are the two limitations. Otherwise, you can go anywhere, carry your camera and take pictures. You can interview people waiting in the queue, there's no problem. You can make live telecast from there, there's no problem. Okay. To talk a little bit about the Election Commission, the Commission is sitting right here. It's composed of 5 members, headed by the Chief Election Commission. Our assignment, as given in the Constitution, include holding elections to the office of the President, holding elections to the members of the Parliament, delimitation of the constituencies for the purpose of election of the Parliament, preparation of the electoral rolls, and any other function that is prescribed by the Constitution or any other law. This might go through a small modification after the constitutional provisions have been amended. To talk a little bit about pre-election activities. For this election commission, it has been quite intense. We started with the updating of the voter list, and just to give you an appreciation, since the young voters lost interest in voting, we found a big number did not even register as a voter. And we have been able to include 4.5 million dropped voters in the list. We also brought about change in the voter list act. Previously, it used to be the first of every year, 1st of January, when one would qualify to be entered in the list. But we brought about a change, and the new provision says that a date selected by the Election Commission is also okay for one to be included in the voter list. And accordingly, 15th of October has been the date we selected, and we have more than 1.2 million young voters in the list. If we maintain the previous law. So, updating of the voter list was our first of the activities, and just to include one more line, we also found more than 2 million deaths in the voter list. So we could drop them out. There was an increasing difference between the number of female voters with that of the male voters. Female voters were almost 3 million lesser in number than the male voters. After intense activities and awareness programs, we have been able to reduce that gap significantly. Our next activity was the primary selection of the polling station, and as you know, this go through continuous accreditation and checking because and it goes through a check even in the last hour, depending on who is buying where and whether or not a particular technique has influence over an area or not. Boundary delimitation was our next major activity and it takes a long time. We completed that. Registration of political parties. Usually this registration takes place before the election, however, one can float a political party and get registered any time. But as a matter of practice here in Bangladesh, the intensity increases, particularly when the election nears. So this time also, there were dozens of applications and of them 10 new political parties have emerged. The total number of registered political parties with the election commission today stands at 16. Of them, 15 are participating. Then we undertook continuous amendments to the laws and regulations. And just to give an illustration, the consensus commission was working on this separately at a different level, and we were getting input from back end, and then we picked up those that did not need any political consultation and straightway adopted in our laws and rules. However, there are other recommendations which might take time. We undertook series of dialogues with stakeholders, and that includes media, observer groups, women organizations, disabled organizations, international organizations, and last but not the least, the political parties. It also included the members of the civil society, including the academia. And this took a very long time, and we got invaluable input from them for this election. Logistic planning and execution is another mammoth task, and it has been undertaken at due time, and this took no less than, I think, 9 months to complete the logistic preparation. And we must acknowledge the contribution of UNDP and the member states contributing to the UNDP's ballot project, which contributed significantly in our logistic preparation. Training of officials is another important activity that we undertake. And this is a very long process. This includes training of all. I told you that there are 800,000 officials. All of them had to undergo training of the sort. And this is done following the train the trainer model. So we train the trainer, and subsequently the trainers train the rest. We had to also impart training for the first time for conduct of the postal ballot. This is a new experience, and we found, as we walked through, new experiences coming through every day. Last but not the least was postal ballot. And just taking cue from what I said moments back, this was a very new experience to us. I'll spend a minute here. We undertook exercise based on commitment made by our Honorable Chief Advisor. He committed to the nation on 16th of December 2024 that he will ensure a right for voting for the overseas Bangladeshis. And he said, we have been making this commitment, but we have never been able to implement it. We want implementation this time, and we want adoption of an affordable system. So accordingly, the Election Commission undertook this exercise. We invited all experts from home and abroad, involved our reputed universities and academic institutions, and came up with, finally, after consulting the political parties, the postal ballot supported by IT. The key feature of this is registration was done online, and voting is half online and mainly offline manual. How is that? After the registration is done, which used to be a manual affair in the bygone days, the individual voters are sent with a ballot paper. Ballot paper contains 2 ballot papers, one for the national election and one for the referendum. There's an instruction included in it, and there is a declaration in it. So, voter, upon receipt of the ballot,
would do a live verification. Now, this is the half of the voting, to ensure that the ballot has reached the intended hand and nobody else, in order to ensure integrity of the vote. And after that, they cast their vote and return the ballot directly to the returning officer. And our voters don't have to pay a penny. Government of Bangladesh, vis-a-vis Election Commission, is paying for the postage of these votes. You know, particularly the members of the EMBs present here, that diaspora voting is not an easy thing. The global inclusion rate is only 2.7%. Only 2.7%. And postal ballot is again another difficult area where global wastage rate is 24%. We are anticipating, if not lower, close to 24 or even more wastage rate in our case as well. Because of the stringent policy we have, we are not allowing the ballots to be handed over to an individual other than the voter. There were occasions, even in this time, we found particularly in Middle East, where our voters live in camp-like environment, where 50, 100 people stay in one place. So the postal department sometimes delivered all 50 ballots in one place. And that created some confusion, and we stopped immediately. We said no, it had to be handed over to the individual. For this, some of the voters may never receive their ballots, and we can see it online. We can track the number of the ballots, and we can see there is a wastage there. Anyway, coming back to the management of the postal ballots, majority of the ballots are already returned to the returning officers. Close to 900,000 ballots of 1.5 million ballots have already been received by the returning officers. We are hoping a big number will go today and up to 4:30 tomorrow, which is the cutoff time for receiving the postal ballot. Any ballot coming after 4:30 tomorrow, which is the closure time for in-person voting as well, that ballot is not going to be accepted. If you have any questions on this, I can highlight subsequently. Okay. How would the voter list look like? I'm sure it will be difficult for you to see from there, but just to give you an appreciation, this is the voter list that is with the polling officials. It contains the picture of the voter, the details of the voter, and the voters who have applied for postal ballot. Those are marked with watermark on top, so that the individuals who have registered for postal ballot do not show up in person for in-person voting. They are not allowed for in-person voting. Okay. Just a little bit about the arrangement in the polling station. Our polling stations are usually secondary or primary schools or colleges. It also includes some of the cyclone center, particularly in the coastal areas. Very few other facilities. There would be one or two temporary polling stations as well. Each of the polling station has an area where voters can queue up, generally a small field. Polling station include at least 6 polling booths or more, depending on the number of voter in that particular polling station. Average voters in a polling station is around 3,000. It could be little more, little less. Around 31,000 polling stations are common for male and female. Around 5,000 each are only dedicated for the male and female, where practicable. Where male and female polling stations are in one place, the female booth is separated from the male booth in order to cater for the cultural realities of the country. Okay. Every polling booth, I told you, if I may recall again, the polling station has one presiding officer. So there is one presiding officer for every single polling station. Now, if the polling station has 6 booths, every booth will have an assistant presiding officer and 2 polling officers. So in every booth there will be 3 polling officials. Beside the polling officials, every booth will have polling agents deputed by the candidates, contesting candidates. Now this is where we sometimes find that some of the candidates may not be able to, rally as many or marshal as many agents. That's up to their capability. But generally speaking, all the major contestants have their agents present. Okay.